Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of Pod Strickland. I'm your host, Shwin and Prez. In this episode 418, I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Prez, that is at _Presidente on Twitter. Prez, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. We're in the throes of Summer League, your favorite time of year.
This is my favorite time of the year because this is when I check out. I have watched the Knicks games, and I'll be watching very little other Summer League thereafter. I watched. I'm not somebody who has generally been a WNBA fan. Although now, every time I turn on the WNBA, I'm like, this is fucking awesome. This is great. Last Sunday, I watched Caitlin Clark's Indiana Fever defeat somebody good, I believe, Minnesota, the Lynx, right? They played the Lynx, and they won. And she didn't even play that well down the stretch, but they won. And she had 24-19 last night. So she's on her way. Looks like that's what the streets are telling me.
Yeah, she's doing the damn thing. There's a lot of action going on right now in the W. So
better action than you're gonna get in the fucking Summer League. I'll tell you that. But we're gonna talk about Summer League because that's what Prez wants to do, even if I don't want to. And this week's episode is about Prez. But we're gonna get to that. And before we get to that, unfortunately, I have to make a few announcements. First, Strickland has an Instagram. Check that out. That is at the Strickland line on Instagram. We're posting all kinds of new content on there. Strickland also has a YouTube channel where you may be watching this podcast. If you are not done so already, please hit like, subscribe to the podcast. Subscribe to the channel, I should say. Leave a comment. That'd be a huge help to us. The Strickland also has a Patreon, which you can subscribe to. There are a number of different tiers. There's a $6 tier. That gets you access to Pod Strickland, this podcast that I host every Friday with Prez. You also get access to Takes from the Obvious Bozos, our newest podcast that is hosted by Andrew Steele, a.k.a. Doug, along with Zach Blatter. And you get access to the Strickland Discord with the conversation never stops. There are further tiers. There's a $9 tier. That gets you access to Strickland Roll, my solo pod where I rant and rave about the Knicks even more. You also get access to wonderful premium articles by Matthew Miranda, one of the best in the business. And you get access to Strickland NFL, which is hosted by Constantine Metricos. And if you guessed it correctly, you win $1,000. It is about the NFL. There are further tiers. There's a $15 tier, $30 tier, $50 tier, and $100 tier. Let's go with a variety of additional benefits, like listening to pod recordings, merchandise discounts, and even potentially co-hosting a podcast alongside yours truly one day, whether you choose to subscribe or not. None of this would be possible without you. And none of this would be possible without BetOnline. BetOnline is your number one source for all your sports betting needs this season. From baseball, golf, soccer, right to all the top fights in UFC, MMA, and boxing. Every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker or unwind with one of our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. Use promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, for your 50% free bet credit on your first deposit up to $250. BetOnline. The game starts here. All right. Well, before we get to Summer League, before I zone out of this podcast, just like I've zoned out of Summer League. No, I'm not totally zoned out of Summer League. I've enjoyed some of it. I've enjoyed my Reed Shepherd viewing. I have disregarded the positive showing of players that I don't care about and don't want to root for and don't want to do well, such as Kolek, who should fuck off forever.
We need some form of we have the Shwin top 10 hater rankings. We need some version of emerging talent, but the opposite, emerging onto your shit list. You know what I mean? I need the title here, but
good idea. Yeah, maybe that's what we can turn this pod into.
Not necessarily all rookie, because I don't want to confine your thoughts in such a way. But something along those lines. Yeah. I'm just
what's the saying? Love springs eternal. Well, in this world, hate springs eternal, and you're right.
Exactly.
It can come from anywhere. All experiences are allowed to emerge as
right. Shwin isn't ageist here.
Klay Thompson.
Yeah.
Sudden rise.
Could be Kolek, who's half Klay's age.
Exactly. There's no discrimination here. Well, before we do that, I don't know. Look, I guess we did an entire podcast yesterday, and it was like so fucking long after that I think we just both forgot to talk about it. So I guess we'll talk about it now. Brunson extension. Thoughts on him taking the greatest pay cut in the history of capitalism?
Yeah, I mean, old news at this point, but
Are you like? Would you feel terrible by yourself if you signed a $156 million contract because you might have been able to get $270 million next summer?
I'd feel great, but I'm built different, so hard to compare me with the common man, to be honest. I don't know. I thought it was interesting to see different people write about like, well, actually, if you view it in this way from this perspective of cap mechanics and blah blah blah, it's like not 113, but 37 or 33. Like there were different numbers thrown around, and there was also pieces written on like, okay, well, what does this actually mean for the Knicks? I'm not gonna lie, I didn't read those. It's at the
No, I get it. You were very distracted by watching, fucking Dalton Connect in Summer League.
exactly.
There's a lot of stuff going on here. It's a lot
Look,
more
these
important.
second round picks aren't gonna watch themselves. All right, guys, like someone has to do it. No, there's just like a level of like cap implication that at this point in the season, maybe because it's summer and it's hot out, where I'm just like, look, I believe y'all. I'm just not gonna read all that shit. Sorry, Jeremy. Just give me. I tell Jeremy all the time. I'm like, yo, give me like pretend I'm 5, and you have only 10 seconds to articulate.
You're a lawyer,
this.
man. Come on, what is this?
Yeah, that means after fucking 6 p.m. every day, my fucking brain shuts down, and I don't
What
have.
are you like drowning in scotch as a lawyer every night after 6 p.m.?
Look, I have very limited brain capacity, and 99% of it is unfortunately taken up by like esoteric environmental law and random second round picks from the last 20 years. I don't have room for the fucking first apron, second apron, and if you take the taxpayer, non-taxpayer MLE and just crossbreed that and pollinated it with the fucking whatever, bro. Just he took a discount. The vibes are good. I don't need to fucking read a thesis on how Brock Aller is gonna fucking leverage that. But like jokes aside, like it just speaks to like I trust that the number isn't a coincidence. The number has meaning and meaning beyond what we know because this organization is a bunch of nerds, like I've been saying for a while, right? And Brock Aller chief among them, arguably. So like the fact that we were in a position to do this to further short-term and medium-term flexibility, it's pretty fucking cool. And I know it hasn't correct me if I'm wrong, but like it hasn't necessarily borne fruit yet. That's something that's going to happen probably over the next 2 years.
It's not going to bear fruit now. It was never going to, because the thing about the extension wasn't going to kick in until next year anyway.
Right,
so,
right. So this year everything's the same.
It's the same thing, yeah. So this is why, like, me and Miranda had a little back and forth piece that ran this week. If you want to read it. I thought it was good, mostly because Matt's a good writer, and it's easy to look good when you're, it's easy to be Pippen when you're playing next to Jordan, right? But like, he brought up a lot of valid concerns about what this means. Are the owners going to try and use Brunson taking a pervert? But by the way, I want to stop using. Can we stop using the word pay cut? Because it's not a pay cut. It's not a pay cut. He took the maximum allowed money that was like the Knicks offered him every fucking cent they possibly could right now. That is what they did. They did not offer him a pay cut. They gave him they were like, hey, we will give you every cent we can possibly give you right now. That's not a pay cut. If you want to call, like, you don't get to call potential future earnings that he's passing up. That's not a pay cut. That is a choice. That's a choice.
You made a business decision.
That's a business decision. That is not a pay cut. That is a business decision. And here's the thing about business. There are people that view business as, well, for me, I work jobs to make the most amount of money possible, and that is all that I give a fuck about. That's fine. You're allowed to be that. Jeff Bezos is that. Many billionaires share this trait. Most normal people, while they value money quite a bit, because we live in a society where you need to value money, will not necessarily value the dollar over happiness to some degree. And if for Jalen Brunson, happiness is defined by I get to sign a generational wealth contract, and this contract gives the franchise that I am playing for, that is ran by my godfather, where I am coached by my father, where my head coach is somebody I've known since I was a child, where I get to literally play with my fucking beer pong buddies from college, then yeah, you might be willing to sacrifice something in future potential earnings, because not only do you get to do all of these things and work with all these people that you love and have known forever, it improves your chances of winning a championship, which I will remind people is either the top or the second most important, generally, I would assume, goal for a professional athlete. Make a lot of money, win championships. There's a balance between those things. Now, if you have to sacrifice championships to make more money, for some reason, everybody totally understands that decision. We all get that decision. I get that decision. I have no problem with it. Carmelo made that decision multiple times. He loved his money. He loved New York. He chose that over improving his chances of winning a championship. Jalen Brunson maybe gets to have his cake and eat it too. He loves New York. He can take a little bit of a proverbial pay cut. He can sacrifice future potential earnings. And he gets to play with all his best buddies and be coached by his dad and be coached by basically his fucking uncle. And, and management is ran by his godfather. Like, that sounds like a pretty awesome position to be in New York City, which is the biggest media market in the Western Hemisphere. So, I mean, it's a top 2-3 media market in the world at minimum. I don't know. You're playing for the biggest sports brand, at least by franchise value, I believe, in the NBA. There's a lot of reasons why you might just sign the fucking $156 million extension, especially given that on the back end of this, if you opt out of the last year and you sign a max on that end, then you are looking at, like a $6 million difference at the grand scheme of things. Like, I'm sorry. This idea that, this is a slap in the face to the players union is laughable on so many levels. But it's especially laughable in the sense of this very specific thing. You don't get to bitch about the nature of capitalism and billionaires and then also tell Jalen Brunson to act the same way. I'm sorry, you don't get to do that. That's fucking bullshit. Jalen Brunson made a choice. And for him, professional happiness doesn't need to be what it is for me or for Prez or for you or for your fucking mother. Doesn't matter. It's his own individual thing. Everybody's version of what that is different. Okay? I guarantee you there's some fucking scumbag on Wall Street who's shorting, fucking, I don't fucking know, some essential industry right now that is probably going to make a killing. You know what I say to that person? He's probably a fucking piece of shit. And I'd probably hate his guts if I met him. Or her, I guess. But in this case, Jalen Brunson chose, I will take all the money I can get now. If that means I don't, oh my God, I have to sacrifice $37 million. You know what? It's easy to sacrifice $37 million when you know that you got $156 million guaranteed if you want it. And you sign for it. And it's written in contract. Nobody can take that away from you. It's a lot easier to sacrifice $37 million then. And it's a lot easier to sacrifice $37 million when you're playing for an organization that has its shit together. And that organization, again, happens to be ran by your godfather. And you get to be coached by your dad. And you get coached by Tom Thibodeau, who you've known forever. And you get to play with all your pals. Like, yeah, you know what? $37 million might be worth it then to sacrifice. Because you're still getting generational wealth. I don't know what he can do with $156 million that he couldn't do with $193. which is what that extra 37 would be. I mean, it's really 113 versus 140 or 150. Sorry, but I don't know what you can do with 113 million that you absolutely can't do with 150. I don't know. I've never made money like that. I'm never going to make money like that. I will never see money like that. I will never see a contract like that in front of me. But I imagine there's not a huge difference. And if that sacrifice leads you to happiness, that you get to have both your personal life and your professional life intertwined in a way that, I mean, I don't know how many people can have it as intertwined as perfectly as he has it. Yeah, you know what? It's probably worth it. It's probably fucking worth it. That was my take on it. But hey, look, if everybody thinks that everybody needs to operate like Gordon fucking Gecko in Wall Street, and we need to be, just grabbing every fucking cent from the system, then that's your prerogative. But Jalen Brunson also has to operate within the system that has been created. He didn't create this. He didn't make the CBA. He didn't make the NBA. He didn't.
Well, that's the most interesting part of this to me is something a friend of the pod, Seth Partnow, tweeted about.
Cooking.
Yeah, he had a really interesting thread in his economics bag, and I'd never thought about it the way he framed it before, but it made a lot of sense. And one of the points he was making was basically that, like, as we've seen, the way the new CBA is structured, it's hard to build a team with 3 max superstars like we've seen for the last 10 years, right? That generally speaking is the benchmark of a apex predator NBA team over the last decade or so, right? Not every big 3 is the same, but ultimately you're talking about 3 guys on max or near max deals, and we've all kind of anecdotally seen how difficult it is to do that with the new CBA. And
I mean, who could forget the legendary success of the Brooklyn Nets?
Yeah, exactly. There's still a couple of teams that, because of the circumstances they're in, they've been able to almost to figure out a way to pull it off, like the 76ers. But that comes at a sacrifice. Like, their depth is blatantly not as good as a team like, forget the Knicks, the Celtics. Yes,
it's not even close.
Yeah,
it's not even fucking close.
And even with that, it's hard, right? Like, they had 2 guys under contract in the right sequence, and other guys coming off at the right time to create the space for Paul George.
Well, I'll throw this. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I'll throw this at you since you brought this up. So I saw the great M Grads, the dumbest account on fucking Twitter. That guy is a fucking loser. Should probably just stop talking about basketball when he doesn't even understand the business of it and claims to be like some aficionado of it.